Welcome in, everybody. It's Thursday, June 11th, and you're not going to want to miss today's show because I just was in heavy meditation. And for the first time ever, I had headsets on and I did my remote viewing outside. And boy, oh boy, I got some very interesting new facts, new details, confirmation details. I got a name for the first time, and I saw the perp for the second time and only the second time. And boy, I was wrong on one of them. And for the first time ever, I took notes. So buckle up. I've got 4 new remote viewings on Nancy and 1 on Lynette Hooker. Let's go. Oh, before we get at it, do all the YouTube things, please. And thank you, everybody, for subscribing, like, sharing, hyping. It helps me out so much. You have no idea. Welcome to Motive.Means.Opportunity, True Crime Intuition. My name's Leanne. Let's get at it.
Person that we see on the camera has a buffoonish quality. I do not think that individual could have schemed himself out of a paper bag. Supposedly, the Ring camera was operating up until it was destroyed. Do we see the car returning Nancy home? I have proposed the possibility that she was never even brought back, that something happened to her somewhere else, and there's a staging of that home to make it look, which would explain what somebody did in there for 41 minutes, and why the guy at the front door doesn't look nervous.
Okay, well, let me tell you, we're going to watch a little bit more of this clip, but it pertains to a couple of things that we're going to talk about tonight. I'm going to tell you the crime was committed there, just my opinion, just based on what I saw in my remote viewing. But that guy walking up, the perp walking up, and whether there was a car there were part of what were confirmed here today for me. And I want to just say, while Dr. Gary says they were there for 41 minutes, I actually heard and wrote down 4 hours today. Remember when I said I saw the perps arriving earlier to the scene? I saw 2 going over the fence. And then just recently, that was way back, just recently I showed you Daphne's case files. If you missed it, you got to go watch all my videos because they kind of all piece together, except for a few rants in between. But the Daphne's case files, we heard, I showed you, I played it for you here, that the night before at 8:33 p.m., police were trying to track down a perp that matched the exact description, to the point of even the Ozark backpack, the height and everything being described as the same as the perp on the porch. Okay, so I got some confirmations and details on that, but let's first now go back to Gary Bricado, who we've been following on this channel for so many, well, since this case started, so many videos, so many conversations. I completely agree with so many things he says, and they support and have been supporting the view that I've been saying all along about staged. There's something here he talks about the blood that's very interesting, okay? If you recall, I have been saying that the blood was staged all along, and then I was like, no, I'm redacting that because of the astrology. Well, I got the clarification today, and this is a clip you don't want to miss with Gary Bricado on T. Okay, let's watch. What I'm going to do for you is I'm going to do the videos, and I'm going to drip in my remote viewing and tell you, no, this is what I saw. As we watch this interview, I'm not even sure yet how I'm going to do this, because this was such a I want to say creative by spirit, not me, way to remote view, because I had to really decompress and sit outside, because, you know, y'all was pent up over here about the last few days, which we're dropping now, going forward. But y'all, when I feel an injustice, yes, they were crazy. There was misbehavior. There's no doubt. I've heard that. But not as far as I know regarding Jews, and also not in that moment and not what they were arrested for. So, you know, whatever. But we're moving on. So listen, I've never had a remote viewing session given to me like this before. Like, I've got 5 pages of notes, but it's almost like spirit, God, the divine, whoever, you know, you want to refer to it as, gave me like puzzle pieces, but they kind of like they there was a dripping in that kind of connected these visions. Like there was more information in more of the remote viewings of the 5. Oh, well, the Medhooker one was different. But out of the 3 or 4 other ones, I think there was literally multiple information in each that tied to another one. It's like a spoke of a wheel. They were giving me like I was saying at the beginning, it's like like more details. There was some new details for sure, but also like more details to things I've seen before. So I'm going to go through these clips, tell you, because I don't know how else to do it, because it's like parts of one viewing are relevant to what Gary's going to say. So I'm going to let you see it, and I'm going to tell you what I saw that confirms or validates what he's saying here. And I love Gary, Dr. Picado, don't get me wrong, just based on what my remote viewing is saying. And then I'm going to go through like for 5 minutes at the end, and maybe 10, because it doesn't take very long, to read my notes of the viewings in order, so you can see how the one and the next all were one reading, if that makes sense. Because otherwise I don't know how to show you how it links to what we're watching. So let's do this. Let's keep watching Dr. Gary here, and I'll tell you the parts that are relevant to what I saw in my viewings.
For example, something that's been bothering me a while about this is supposedly the Ring camera was operating up until it was destroyed by the Ring guy, right? So then, do we see the car returning Nancy home to the garage pass in front of the house on the Ring camera at the time that she supposedly returned home? Do we see the vehicle pass in front and go to the garage? That's interesting, because you see, it supposedly was running. And so, this is bothered.
Well, let's just talk about this, because actually is not something I've remote viewed per se. Although today I got a validation that we'll talk about right now of something. But there was a light, the vehicle that looked like it could have been a vehicle way back, I remember talking about. But I've been given and shown that the vehicle, and again confirmed in my remote viewing just this afternoon, that the vehicle was hiding on the road. So let me get a map of Nancy's up. Let me pull a map up. Okay, so I am getting that they moved, and I'm going to talk about this in another remote viewing, that they, remember when we talked about Chris McDonough and the FBI in the bush here, that this here is blocking the view because I see a car here, and I don't think the car came up in front of the camera. I believe the car came in this way, and did not pass the house in front of the camera. And I was confirmed today in my remote viewing that there was a car that came eventually. I do believe for the most time these guys walked in. They might have brought a car in later, and it might have been waiting for them, but I'm not sure that's the car that came in. I feel like the car that came in might have been requested after that this all went down, and it's parked here on North Camino. So let me zoom out. Now that is not the route that I got. That is not the route that I got them leaving at, which is interesting, but the camera's been removed. So I get that they come in this way and they park here behind these trees before the house, so the camera does not pick it up, is what I got confirmation of today. And so yeah, so it's like right in here, and the camera just doesn't get it. And here in the soil, I get a confirmation. Let me zoom in some more. Can I zoom in more? I think I'm at my max. So going down the step here, gosh, if I could just move my little cursor so you could see it in the shadow. Okay. I saw today, it was reinforced to me that they directionally, on purpose, in other words, let me just make myself a bit bigger. They on purpose planned to have it look like when the perp walked up to the porch, that he came in from this way, that he came in, or that he came in from behind the house, because he deliberately walks up here. And I'm given this flash of the perp. And the reason I can remember it is because I wrote it down. If I don't write things down, I don't retain them. I used to study in school that way all the time. So I think this is my new methodology. I really, really liked how it felt today. Really liked it. Okay. So I believe that he walked in from behind the house. And what I was shown today is they were already, the three of the other ones were standing in the bush here with Nancy in her wheelchair already right here. So when the FBI were ducking, so I'm given this image, this vision of the perp walking up, but they were already on side. And so remember, I had a vision where they walked her out the front door and put her in a wheelchair. And then I hear, like, Nancy, now you're going to go to sleep or whatever. And I really think they drugged her after that. But I think the perp walked up either, like, I think for sure from the back, I should say just plainly, I think for sure from the back of the home, and made it look like he came in this way. And meanwhile, and then up to the front porch, removes the camera. I'm going to give you another detail later, a very important detail about that. And I'm immediately flashed and shown energy of people, a cluster with Nancy in a wheelchair, almost right here where the shade is, off to the bush here behind this bush, where the FBI were crouched down, waiting with Nancy in a wheelchair. 4 perps were there. That was confirmed today too in a viewing. 4 perps were there, and there's 3 of them offside with Nancy in a wheelchair while the perp is walking up around this view that we see right here. Let me show you. It was staged to make it look like he's coming in from either the right but I think he came in from behind the home, but they deliberately did not want it coming from where they are hiding, from that direction, nor where the vehicle is. So I'm going to show you, like I said, my notes later. Let's get back to Dr. Gary.
Me a lot, because again, I have proposed the possibility that she was never even brought back there, that she never even got back there, that something happened to her somewhere else, and there's a staging of that home to make it look like, which would explain what somebody did in there for 41 minutes.
And again, I want to just say, in my remote viewing, and I actually tried to watch this last night, and I really only remember when I was falling asleep because I was trying to force myself to stay awake. I just listened to it too late at night. So I have remembered generally, but I don't remember the specifics of what he said, other than what he's going to say next, that about the blood. Okay. But I just want to reconfirm that I heard today 10-2 that 2 of the perps were at least in the home when I saw the back. I was also given that vision, a reconfirmation of the perp that jumped over the back fence. I'm guaranteeing you that if you want to wait to the very end, I'm not looking at my notes because I wrote it, I'm remembering, but there's parts that I guarantee you're going to want to hear that I'm probably forgetting about right now, that I'll tell you when I read them all, notes one at a time at the end. But I was flashed, and again, it's because I can't even separate them in my mind, because it was very cool. But it was the first, I mean, I hope that they come back to me like this again. It was very cool. They were all interrelated, if you will. Like there was new details provided that connected in more than one aspect for each of the viewings. Like it was wild. So yeah, there's quotes in here. I'm not going to read right now. Anyways, so they wanted to make it look like it, and I see a validation of the one perp jumping over the fence, and he's relevant. Now, remember, I have never told you before a name, and I have never before until the other day when I showed you a remote viewing that I did at A&T's home the night before. And I got somebody that I've just been communicating with, and I'm so sorry because I wasn't very responsive to this idea. And it's not even just you, sir, who I'm waiting to see. I'm hoping you're going to come on the show. It's not just even you. It's just like, I never really got any indications of the band before this. None. But I also never saw a face, and I was never given a name, and I was only given a father-son duo. So I have no idea if he has a name, or if he has a son, rather. But I did get the name Domenico today. So I did get the name Dominic today, and I was flashed when I was given the view of the perp jumping over the fence again today. I got a flash of his face again. I think he smokes, by the way. But a different view, but a more direct on view of when he got out of his car, walking into Annie and Tommaso's the night before. And I get a validation that he was there that night, and he is the mastermind, the chef, if you will, behind all this. He's the one that Tommaso owes money to. And so I know you guys have been saying, some of you guys, the band members. I swear to God, I never had an indication of that before. But I see his face. And the only thing is that I see his face again for the second time today. And at first I thought it was a thinner version of him, but then the person I'm emailing back and forth with, I'm hoping he's going to come on, is a facial recognition person has a lot of knowledge. He sent me an older picture of him where he was much thinner. And in the view that I get, which is the exact same view of him, but again, straight on, same clothes, he looks thinner than some of the pictures I had seen of him, and his hair is longer and curlier. So now maybe that's his. No, I don't think so, because I heard his name, but maybe that was his son. But I do get father and son energy. So anyways, that's pretty important. And now I'm totally off track because, yeah, there's something else I got to tell you, other things about that vision about him that you're not going to like. Okay, let's get back into Dr. Gary, and let's get back to the blood. I'm a little bit all over the place. I'm going to try to not jump ahead, but I'm afraid I'm not going to tell everything. And so I forget why I brought that back in, but oh yes, because again, thank you, Spirit. Because I was reminded that they were in there 4 hours, not 41 minutes, because it was confirmed when I saw the perp jumping over the fence, and they were waiting for Nancy when she got home at 10 to 10. It was him. That's what I was trying to confirm here. Sorry. Again, I'm all over the place because of the way they came in, and how I'm trying to show what's relevant. So they were there 4 hours, he at least, but I saw 2 perps jumping over the fence, and he was one of them. He's the main person owed money to. I don't know if anybody can confirm he drives a Porsche, but unless that car was rented, that was a black Porsche. And I think it was, I want to say a Cayenne, but I'm pretty sure it was the Cayenne. Okay, let's go. Let's watch Dr. Gary now.
And why the guy at the front door doesn't look nervous, because the deed is already done.
How would you explain the blood on the front
Well,
porch?
Very easy to stage blood. Very easy. I'm aware of many.
Stage blood.
Very easy. You just have to get the blood from her in a different way. But it's very easy to stage.
Let me go back.
And possibility that she was never even brought back there, that she never even got back there, that something happened to her somewhere else. And there's a staging of that home to make it look like, which would explain what somebody did in there for 41 minutes. And why the guy at the front door doesn't look nervous, because the deed is already done.
How would you explain the blood on the front porch?
Very easy to stage blood. Very easy. I'm aware of many. Very easy. You just have to get the blood from her in a different way. But it's very easy to stage blood. And, with a syringe or some other thing to sort of drop it there. Now, I'm not suggesting that happened. Let me be clear. I'm only saying it is a possibility that cannot be taken off the table. And I think it's very important not to give the impression that I think anybody who has been exonerated has anything to do with this. I simply think that someone or some people who have a knowledge of her removed her, eliminated her as an obstacle to some selfish aim, and tried to make it look like something else, is a possibility I cannot take off the table.
Exactly. So that's exactly what we've been saying. And now going back to the blood. Okay, so this is important, going back to the blood. Because, y'all, I have been saying all along syringe, and I saw a vision, remember? And I said, I'm sure I see a vision of this, but it was just an impression. That's the thing about remote viewing. It's like sometimes you get clips of an impression, but not a full scene. So it's like you're interpreting it. Anyways, and then we read the astrology. Okay, I've learned that I probably should not use AI or Gemini for Vedic astrology or for forensic astrology. So, down when I have more time down the road, I will study forensic astrology myself because I've always wanted to for case analysis and add that in, which also leads me to announce that I will likely be going to go. I really want to go see Jack and Lily, but just hold off on the donations. I just counted, we have $400 and something. Like, I wrote it down, like, wild. Thank you guys. So I do want to go. I'm just looking to see if somebody can join me there so that it's safe. And then I went to call a friend today. This is also Nancy Guthrie related because it's super important before I forget, actually. That, when I was talking about what did I want to say? The flowers and the 3 Wiccan related dates. At the night that I did that video, I was wondering, I wonder if there was some witch that I could contact, a white witch. Like, everything's about energy, right? Black versus dark versus light energy. And I'm just wondering if there's a Wiccan witch that I could reach out to. So I'm going to look into whether or not I can find somebody that might be able to help remove the spell, because I really, if this is true and they are Wiccans and there's spells involved here making it impossible to solve the case, which also, I viewed the FBI, remote viewed the FBI. I should have said that right at the get-go. You're going to want to hear that. If there's spells going on here, that would be really interesting. And I believe I got a confirmation today, true story, because when I go to call my buddy, who I've known since I was 14, so 43 years, he's in a panic. He's got a UTI. He's the one in the wheelchair. I've told you about before. He can't really help me look because he's in a wheelchair. He's paralyzed waist down. Anyways, he starts like going off about black entities attacking him before he tells me it's a UTI he had. So he's hallucinating, right? So I calm him down and whatever. Anyways, he's, I don't know what kind of drugs they put him on. He was at the hospital last night laughing at him because he's like, I guess he's got a bad infection and he's kind of losing it. Like, so sent him some energy. But the point being, I said, look at Jimmy, like, call this guy, because and then I remembered, I know a guy who does this stuff because I had to use him. It's true story. When I was selling for a builder that I know very well. In fact, I've just texted him about a possible job because I need the money. And I know very, very well. I worked for this builder. I had multiple of their sites listed. And he and my dad were very good friends. My dad gave him money to save his company from going under many years ago. I think I've told you the story. I worked for him before I was even licensed. Like, he's like a father figure to me. And my dad went to his kids' weddings and yada, yada, yada. So he's a land developer and he has a housing company. So I show up. I've got my hostesses on the site. And literally I had a hostess that was like 300 pounds. I'm not weight shaming. It's just, she calls me one day and it's pouring rain. And she's like, I'm going nuts. Like, I'm throwing my body into the door and the door won't effing close, Leanne. I'm going to lose my mind. And this place was possessed. So they had bought 3 bungalows on a corner to eventually tear them down and put the building in. And they had converted, one had a tenant in it. The one right on the corner, they put all the billboards in and it was vacant. And then they had converted the middle one to our sales unit, the home. And then they put the layout of one of the units as an example within the home. So you could see the floor plan and that this is what this unit 1AB or whatever looks like, whatever it was. And we were all terrified. There were 6 of us working different shifts. You would put the heat on and you'd come back the next day, the AC was on, and then it's January. The doors would slam. The city of Ottawa was doing sorry, the city of Ottawa was redoing our water meters at the time, and we were at the house next door, and the doors were like slamming, freaking everybody out. You could hear like on the basement like slithering. Oh, and the house next door had like a dog collar with all that the choke, like the pointy stuff with blood all over it. On a mattress on the floor, there was blood all over it. There was like syringes. It had been a crack house. So there was a lot of dark energy. Oh my God. You could hear things slithering on the floor. You could hear dogs. My assistant got like dogs growling in her ears. Like it was unbelievable. So then I have this little entity following me home. It was a little girl after that. And everybody was terrified to work. I had international sales awards. Okay. I couldn't sell an effing unit. So I finally go to the general manager, who's passed on now, regrettably. And I'm like, I'm just going to say T because I don't want to say his name. T, like, what the dang is going on here? Like, they're like, oh, we forgot to tell you it's haunted. I'm like, you could have told me before you hired me to sell it. Like, why would you not tell me that? And then another guy, John at the time, was the construction manager and comes in. They all start laughing. It had terrified the construction workers and the landscaping teams when they were building the unit inside and leveling like the apartments and cleaning it up. They were terrified grown men in construction because it was that haunted. It was wild. So true story. So I have dealt with dark energy before, and I called a guy named Raven. I still have it downloaded on a hard drive from my laptop. This is like probably going back 15 years ago, of the recordings of the entities talking, like almost like a spirit box, but he had like high tech stuff. There were 3 of them that stayed overnight. They were terrorized all night. And then they saged it and burnt it and like burnt the energy, got rid of the energy and did this whole thing. Anyways, long story short, I think I might call him for this case. I'm thinking we need some white magic ingested into this case. Okay, I'm sorry I went off on the tangent, but I had to say that before I forgot. I had to say thank you to the people that have donated. We're going to do a Jack and Lily video probably Saturday, maybe Sunday, because I'm going to have my grandkids, probably Saturday. I have my grandkids over, and probably Saturday. I'm trying to stay consistent Saturday afternoon on Jack and Lily. I'm just going to go back and review the case, introduce the case to those that haven't followed it. I have not been keeping up to date at all. And so thank you for those that have donated. I'll mention you Saturday by name, but just hold off still any more donations. Like I said, it's over 400 now. Thank you. My gosh, you guys are amazing. I had said I need 1,500 to get there and stay there by hotel. That includes gas, not my food, because I need gluten-free. I'll have to bring my food from here. And stay for a couple days. But I don't want to be there by myself because, again, this family has already threatened me. They have, well, not that I know personally it was them, but I suspect, but they have already threatened a group of searchers with you can't say said they were going to kill them, but they came out with a shotgun, yelled at them to get off their effing property. That's pretty crazy. And you have no cell reception out there. It's a very remote part of Nova Scotia in Canada. And I have a girlfriend that lives out there, but she wants nothing to do with any of this. Nothing, which is kind of a drag because I thought maybe she would obviously be a good choice, but no. So, which I have to respect, right? Like I have to respect. Anyway, so let's go back to Nancy Guthrie. So thank you. I'm going to, if I can find somebody to go with, I do really want to go to Nova Scotia for Jack and Lily. Okay, let's get back into it now that I've made all the public service announcements. Thank you for everybody's kind words. All the new members, I love y'all. Thank you. I appreciate you all. Let's keep going.
Ricardo, to round this off, is there anything else you think the public should be paying closer attention to as this case develops?
Well, I think one of the things that's been very complicated for me is that the narrative of who Nancy is as a human being and the people around her, all the even little side characters in her life is very unclear. There's been a kind of black box around all of that. And I think that's where you understand the psychology of why somebody would wish to harm someone other than the simple, that it's about money, right? And simple example, it's known that Nancy used to sit out, on the porch or whatever and write in a journal. I'd sure love to see the journal. I'd love to know what her thoughts were in the time up until something happened to her. So I think for me that it's all about trying to figure out the fuller picture of the victimology. Why this woman? Because she makes a very poor kidnapping choice for money.
Dr. Mercado, you've been absolutely amazing. Thanks so much for joining me today.
She does make an unusual, she's just not the person you would expect to be kidnapped. So let me go back now. So yeah, to the blood conversation. So he's saying that it could have been planted. And then, like I said I thought it was planted. I had that syringe view that, they're going to put her out. I think she was knocked out when she was in that wheelchair. And then I get validation today of the porch guy right, walking up the step, and they're there. And I really, really think they did put her out there, and they did take her blood, because in one of the remote viewings, I'm actually asking about something else rather. And then I'm shown the walkway when Chris McDonough showed the blood spatter going up the walkway. Okay. And I'm shown the arrow pointing towards the door. So it's like they zoom in for me. I see the walkway, and then I see one splatter of blood, and I see it towards the door right after I'm shown the perp and the people sitting by the shrubs. I'll show you what I mean. And so what I'm getting from that message was, I get it in the order that when I remote viewed, she's standing in the doorway, they get her in the chair, they get her out to the side. And then it's like, remember, I've told you here, like, now you little effers, this is your fault. You're going to get the camera. You're going to be the asshole on the camera. I do believe that was the T, but I'm open to being wrong. But, and that they made it look like he came from either the back behind the back of the house, or the opposite side of the house that I just showed you. And then they wheeled her to a car that way. And in actual fact, they might have even left that way. That's not what I get on my remote view or my energy, but I would want to do a second one, because maybe they go back out that way. I don't know. But it's not what I got when I do my energy. I get this way. But then when she throws up, I also get reference to her in a panic. There was so much information, honest to gosh. Okay, so let's show you the video here, right where it was important. Okay, so I'm not going to play this video. I just want you to see what I'm saying, that they made it look like he was coming up from the right. He's walking like he's coming in from the right. And so for whatever reason today in my remote viewing, I never asked for a directionality, right? I was given a side profile, like I was looking at it from up above, but sideways, so I could see him coming up the step from the side. And so I could see behind the bush, right where he is now, behind those bushes, they are already there standing with Nancy. And then I'm given this flash of the blood droplets and an arrow, like Chris's arrow pointing towards the door. So I'm getting that as a confirmation that the blood was staged. And you heard Gary Briccato say it. And I've been saying it here all along, that I thought they had a syringe. And he just said he's seen lots of cases where they use a syringe to stage the blood. So that was a validation today. Let's get to the next clip. So remember I said, I wonder if that was blood? Well, I get that the three of them were standing here, crouched down right behind the plant, while the perp just came in, like I showed you, from that angle up the steps, and the blood was taken. He goes up all the way to the steps and then turns around and carries it out, right? Carries it out and drops it through a syringe. And then as Chris notes, which I just saw in my remote viewing, the perp walks towards here where the three of them are standing. OMG. OMG. So that was really cool and confirming. I'm going to read to you now my remote viewing sessions. I thought I was going to play another clip, but I just went through my notes, and I'm pretty sure I've read all of them to you that are relevant to the video, which was really just the blood and the staging. And I guess I could show you the clip of Chris where he talks about the blood goes in that direction. Let me pull that up fast. So in actual fact, when I go back to the interview room, I see in actual fact, there's a lot of relevant clips in this discussion. And I'm going to let it play and talk it through because I do see more things that I do want to talk to you about. Let's go.
Does that explain a little bit more on the porch why that's 90-degree and asphyxiation, blood, where she coughs? There's a lot of reasons for that, because when we look at this and we go, okay, well, wait a minute. If you look at these two people here, they're staring at the blood down at the end of the walkway. What you would expect in a debrief is you would expect these individuals to follow the blood and then talk about, we think she got in a car over here. But what caught my eye was they didn't do that. They stop, they're thinking, and they stopped right here looking at the end. And so I went to find out what the heck were they looking at. And then I see this guy pull his phone out. And this guy changed the trajectory after I looked at what was.
Okay. So this is the vision I'm given when I'm remote viewing. I'm going to be posting late today because this is so much fun. I had so much fun today. I hate to say that. It's not a fun topic, but I was showing this. And then when I told you I saw that vision of the perp open up the door, I'm given this vision of this like a slowly, I didn't even know what it was at first because it's so far back, and then zooming in, and then I'm shown an arrow like Chris is writing pointing towards the door, like I said. So they already had taken her out the door, propped her in the wheelchair, hiding behind the bushes. And the impression is that they had blood with them that was brought in. The perp walks up to the door before smashing the doorbell, or perhaps after the doorbell. I mean, it would make more sense to do it after the doorbell, wouldn't it? Removing the, why am I saying doorbell? Nest cam. After removing the Nest cam, they turn around and squirt the blood and then walk to join them behind the trail. Now, remember, because they talk about this in this show where perp grabs the weeds and then looks up to the bush, which I've said all along and now makes complete sense because I was just given the vision that the perps were there behind the bush.
Down there, what they were probably looking at. And these are the pictures of the blood on the patio or on the walkway. And you can clearly see, what we would call anomalies and trajectory change. And then I see the guy take the phone out and everybody turn to the right. They don't go down to the end of the walkway.
Nope.
That's why it matters. Because maybe Miss Guthrie wasn't taken down to the end of the walkway and thrown into a car.
Yeah, maybe no vehicle was pulled into the driveway because whoever it was didn't want to leave tire impressions. So they walk her away from the scene.
In a wheelchair.
Or carrier, however she is transported. But this shows some obvious level of planning that they're aware of tire impressions.
Yeah, that's a great point in of itself, John.
So how does the circular driveway wrap around between the paved street in front and this area that you're pointing out, Chris? I'm trying to get my orientation on the front of that. Yep. And so
we just showed you that. So I'm going to move it forward to the next relevant part to my viewing. And I'm going to talk pretty soon, like in 5 minutes, about what I saw in my 5 remote viewing sessions. Let's go. Okay, I might have 10 more minutes of video here. I'm not sure. Listen to this.
This person knows the camera's here. They know the camera's operative. Now, maybe they don't think that it's going to be available, but they're not going to take any risks. That's the reason why the vehicle has been pulled right in front.
Yep.
Yeah.
Great point. Great point, John.
So if Nancy's off on that like little pathway with the suspect or suspects, how come we're not seeing blood from there on the driveway getting her into the vehicle?
Because we don't know where the car's parked yet.
point.
all we can go off of right now is this picture on the right shows a shift change. The picture on the left shows a shift change. It's moving. Okay. This one up here in the upper right and the upper left-hand corner is the most obvious.
Now, I just want to say we don't have evidence that the blood did not carry down, but I believe because it was staged blood, that's why there's a concentration of where it was drawn from Nancy behind the bush. And they do acknowledge here, I'm going to look for that clip, that he does look to somebody behind on the camera behind the bushes. Remember that? So much is interesting because it's coming out as I'm going through my clips, but I want to talk to you about what I saw because it's relevant here. When I remote viewed, the first remote view I asked for the FBI office in Phoenix, Arizona. And I get into the scene and I see the workers, the FBI team. I asked for the task force team. And I see officers, just a small group of people in a small room at a computer. I think there's like maybe 3 people in the room. And it's quiet and they're busy, but I don't feel frantic energy. But then I ask to see the supervisor, who I'm shown is the guy standing in the corner. And y'all, I think the DNA came back because I hear DNA and I hear they are shocked because they expected it to show something different. I hear him saying, I hear them say, my guys are saying, not the results they were expecting. I hear him saying, this doesn't make sense. And he looks stressed out and his energy is like freaking out a little bit around this DNA results that they were not expecting. And I'm really led to believe that they were, now that I'm piecing it together, expecting it to be perhaps the Dominico when they had some mixed sample and it doesn't match who they thought, which is really interesting. And I didn't get further than that, but I might go down and explore that a little bit later in another remote view because I get that. And then I get is it being close to being resolved? I ask, and I'm getting, oh yeah, sorry. In that remote viewing, I'm now starting to read my notes. There is at the high up, I don't know if there is the name of a general in the FBI. Let me go research that. Just 1 second. Okay, so I think it's the attorney general because I'm shown, I hear the word general, so it can't be because it's not military. But I hear there's side conversations going on with the FBI and maybe the attorney general and Nanos. Definitely hear Nanos is being a problem in the background, not cooperating, quite a serious problem. I do hear that they are having conversations with him. The FBI is offside. Okay. That is my remote viewing number 1. I asked for the general case energy, not even close to being solved, disappointing DNA results, not matching who they were tracking and expecting, have no clue, doesn't make sense. Having offside conversations, the FBI with the attorney general about Nanos, his lack of cooperation, and how difficult he is being in this case. Okay, now I'm going to read to you my second remote viewing. I could show clips of here, and I may just bring a 1 or 2 in here, but the video is going to be getting really long. But 1 second here. Let me see if I can find one that's right. Okay, in this clip, they're talking about how Nancy's getting out of there.
And that may be why the blood is no longer visible, but we know that we're assuming at this point, and I agree completely with Bob, porch guy is looking at somebody, a waiting second conspirator or Confederate standing there, and they're moving her, but there's just a limited amount of distance in the middle of the night that they're going to move her. So that's my my take on it. Is the vehicle is there, possibly backed in someplace if there are rocks, and maybe that's the reason why your rocks have been disturbed, is the vehicle's been backed in and hit some of those rocks.
Okay, so he confirms that there's somebody waiting there in the bush. I'm going to tell you, they go on to talk about, Karen goes on to talk about what happens inside the home here. I'm going to tell you what happened inside the home because I got a vision on that today. So right here, Karen is talking about the fact that she's frail, and she thinks that they would have at this point, before they brought her outside, after they confirm they agree, there's somebody waiting for the porch guy behind the bushes where they're now staring at the blood, which is what they just saw in my vision. They're talking about her being frail because they're talking about that being blood and did she put up a fight? And Karen's saying she has a hard time believing she would put up a fight. I'm going to play you that. I'm going to tell you exactly what happened inside that I saw today in my other vision.
And John, for two people to carry somebody like a makeshift stretcher, you have to have two people, one on each side for sure. You know, obviously I could be very wrong. It's just my opinion, but I think they had full control over her at that point, and it was potentially a matter of whatever the plan is to get the car up there and get her out.
Well, you know, a person that is in that position is going to be in flight or fright mode, and you would be amazed at what people can do regardless of their age, their mobility, etc. She could have been putting up some kind of fight at that point. That's not, I don't think you can take that off the table at all. Especially if one person or two people are carting her out and they're trying to get her to walk out to a waiting vehicle to put her in there. And they have her, you know, one on each arm, and they're carting her out, and all of a sudden she starts fighting right there where they're all looking.
Okay, well, I can tell you that's not what happened based on my remote viewing. I'm going to read to you the second remote viewing now, and that's not what happened. I am shown, so I told you remote viewing one, which was the FBI. I've given you dribs and drabs of the other remote viewing. And the second one of Nancy Guthrie's home, I'm asked to show me the number of perps. I'm shown the number 4. I see what was shown was the perp walking up, and then the 3 other people standing in the bush, right what we've been just talking about for quite some time, right there behind the bush. And then in my, I'm given a second flash of the same remote viewing of inside the perp, the guy at the porch guy with his gun on a dresser or a desk or something inside Nancy's house. It was a real gun. I was debating whether the thing in his holster was a gun or not, or a taser, but it's out and it's there for threatening and making sure Nancy sees it. I am shown in that clip that he's the one that jumps over the fence. I'm showing him taking the gun and on the counter, sorry for the noise. That's when I'm also shown like he's pacing back and forth, and I'm shown the blood drops in that one. That's where the blood drops come in. Like I said, they're all over the place. And the stage walking up this way, and then that he curves from the right and walks up, and then that the blood was taken. So that's the second half of that. I'm sorry, I'm in the dark here because it's hot. Sorry, I'm flashing at my flashlight so I can read my notes. But inside the home, now I'm going into my third remote viewing session. I'm taken to this, as I'm getting this, him with this dresser view, I feel this energy of somebody watching in the corner. And I asked for, and when I go back in for my third remote viewing session, I'm asking specifically who's in the corner and what's going on. Remember I told you that she did put up a fight in the sense that when they were in the home, she ripped a mask off and recognized one of the perps there who I believe to be the A&T team. So when I'm asking for the energy in the corner, it's the A of the A&T team, and just beside herself, freaking the F out, because none of this was supposed to happen this way. Mom was not supposed to pull the mask. recognize, and as I said, I was given earlier, I think it's in a later, yeah, it's in my later remote viewing session. This is 3. I've given you all 1 and 2s now, so I'm going through 3, which is just this energy of the A in the corner and the perp slamming his hand at, the desk. It's connected to what's going on here in the house. And they did have her under control because she was tied up to the wheelchair, in my opinion, and asleep in the bushes there with the 3 of them, or knocked out, if you will. But they had arrived, as I said, 2 of them by 10. Something goes wrong. The A&T team somehow come into the picture to deal with the situation. The Dominic vision I got, which I told you the other day, who is thin, long, curly hair. I'm not going to put his face up. You know who I'm talking about, a band member. I've never, ever, ever had that come in before. So, but I've named the A&T team and the father's son. I'd be really curious to see if he has a son, but I've never named him because I've never seen a face or heard a name before today. So he's the one with the gun. He's getting mad. And they have to tell Nancy, and they tell her the whole, yes, Rio and money. This is his plan. This is not us. And Nancy knows the entire truth of what's going down here. I see the entire discussion with A in the corner telling her the whole thing. He's the fence jumping guy. Oh, yes. And he hits her in the face. I see a back slap towards Nancy. He's the one that was poking her. He's not very nice. And there is, this is his fault. Grandma, I'm so sorry. This is his doing. We're forced into this. I hear this entire conversation going on. I see the conversation going on. Now I've got 4. My remote viewing 4. Oh yes, my remote viewing 4 is simply a flash of the Dominico as he was coming up the night before at that 4 p.m. when I see getting out of his Porsche. But this time I see cigarettes in his hand. I think he's wearing, I think I can see his phone is in his pocket, but I see him holding, it's a straight on facial view. And I believe it's cigarettes and a wallet. And I hear, I've asked to see Nancy Guthrie's home, but I'm not taken there. And I'm given a flash of him. And that's when I hear Dominique. And I hear, yeah. So again, this gentleman that I'm emailing you, if you want to come on and talk about your profiling. Nancy asks, what are you going to do with me now? And that's the lengthy discussion. And I see, again, confirmation. I hear 2 to 4. I hear 4 hours. 10 to 2, rather. 10 to 2, I hear 4 hours. 2 of them were there for 4 hours. So over the porch was the Dominico, and maybe his son is the second one, because I did get a father-son. The A&T team are called in when something goes wrong, and you know the rest. Now we're going to get into Lynette Hooker, because I don't want this to be too long. But I did ask about Snapper Point. What did Brian do with her? I'm immediately given him a flash of him, again, carrying her, Lynette, over his shoulder, dropping her into the ground. Snapper Point, I hear. I see him again hit her, which I'm so sorry to say. He is mad. Mad, mad, mad. And I hear Turtle. And then I ask where she is. And I see where I had it before, but then I get this remote view of her panning out to sea. So I thought for sure he was digging a hole. I was positive he was digging a hole, but he may have just laid her there. Whether the hole was, I don't know, like whether the hole was, Ashley was talking about the, oh my God, the mangroves, whether it was mangrove roots and it was like, under the water, like she's either very deep down or he tied her there for a little bit, was going to bury her and then launched her eventually, because I'm given a view and I went to the map to see it, and because I'm like shown her, and then I ask, where is Lynette's body? And I get the view comes up, out, and I get the view over the ocean. And then I hear turtle. And when I pan over to look at where that is, the current north goes to that Turtle Inn, so I don't know. But I'm wondering if he did eventually decide not to bury her and to let her, with weights or whatnot, flow out that way. And if the tide would have taken her more towards north is what I'm wondering, because there's a turtle. I heard the turtle that 3 times now, and I've seen a vision of that turtle in that spot in a hole in the ground. So I don't know, y'all. Thanks for being here. Sorry I was a little all over the place on what I was going to show for clips, but it would have been such a long video if I had shown you more of the clips that I wanted to. So hope you got some value out of this. Do all the YouTubey things. I will talk to you. I'll be back Saturday with Jack and Lily. Love and light.